Hi, welcome to all to our CA Final Repeateds YouTube channel. Today we are going to learn about the composition levy under GST. GST. Section 10 of the CGST Act 2017 deals about the composition levy. Okay. Actually, we can take it as we can simply learn about a simple example. Okay. Here, the registered person, like a person, is trading the is in the business and whose annual turnover is less than or equals to 1.5 crores or 75 lakhs or 50 lakhs based upon the location for checking eligibility for composition levy. Okay, for composition levy we need to check the turnover limits, annual aggregate turnover, and after that, even though in the current financial year, this is regarding previous financial year, to check the eligibility for the composition levy, we need to first verify the previous financial year's turnover, aggregate turnover. After that, in current financial year, up to aggregate turnover is 1.5 crore or 75 lakhs or 50 lakhs, whatever the case may be, it will these both persons may opt for composition levy. Okay. Once in the current financial year, once it crosses these limits, voluntary withdrawal of composition levy should be done. Okay, and in the next financial year he is not eligible or ineligible for taking composition scheme. Okay, in the previous slide we have discussed about the where previous year turnover and current year turnover up to which one can able to take the composition levy. Now we should learn about states in which 75 lakhs limit is there for taking the composition levy and 1.5 crore limit for composition levy. 75 lakhs is applicable to for a short form M cube A N TUS. M cube and TUS is the short form. M cube means Mizoram, Meghalaya, Manipur. A means Arunachal Pradesh. A means Arunachal Pradesh. N means Nagaland. T means Tripura. U means Uttarakhand. S means Sikkim. Under these 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, under these 8 states, the limit for checking for the composition levy eligibility is 75 lakhs. Now we move to 1.5 CR. It is applicable to HOJA. HOJA means Himachal Pradesh, other states. O means other states. J means Jammu and Kashmir. A means Assam. For these for these 3 plus other states, the limit is for checking the eligibility of the composition is 1.5 CR. Okay. Next we are going to learn about the aggregate turnover. Includes aggregate turnover. To calculate the limit, we need to first learn about the what is meant by the aggregate turnover. Okay. Aggregate turnover. Aggregate means pan wise, pan wise on all India basis. All India basis. Next, second point is turnover includes taxable turnover, interstate turnover, exempt turnover, export turnover, export supplies. Turnover includes taxable supplies, interstate supplies, exempt supplies, export supplies, but excludes inward supplies liable to RCM. And second one is GST. GST amount does not include while calculating the turnover. Only taxable part only eligible to calculate the aggregate turnover. This is an important point, and some important notes is there regarding the aggregate turnover. Aggregate turnover includes supplies made on behalf of principal. Second one is supply of goods by registered job worker include in aggregate turnover of principal. Even though the goods supplied by the principal is made through registered job worker, it will be included in the aggregate turnover of the principal. Next, third one, outward supplies, tax payable under RCM included in annual turnover, which means here aggregate turnover excludes the inward supplies which is liable to pay under the RCM, whereas outward supplies which is liable to pay under the RCM by the recipient, even though the tax is paid by the recipient, the supplier's turnover includes those transactions, those supplies too. That's the main point here. Next, What are the important principles of composition scheme? If a person opted for the composition scheme, if he takes the inputs from the registered person, he is not eligible to take the ITC and he is not having right to collect the GST. Okay, he is an eligible person under the composition scheme. Once he is eligible, he is not eligible to take the ITC on the input goods or input services, even though if he pays tax under the RCM, he is not eligible to take ITC on it. Okay, next, he is not eligible to collect the GST and will issue bill of supply to the service recipient or a goods recipient instead of invoice. That means tax invoice, he should not issue tax invoice. That's the point. Next, who are the eligible persons? Eligible persons are categorized into manufacturer, trader, restaurant or catering services. Okay, manufacturer is liable to collect the liable to pay the CGST at 0.5%, SGST at 0.5% of total turnover, whereas trader is liable to pay CGST at 0.5%, SGST at 0.5%, only to the turnover which is taxable supply. Turnover, but only taxable supplies he needs to pay the GST, whereas the manufacturer needs to pay the CGST, SGST at the rate of 0.5% each on total turnover, whereas the trader is liable to pay CGST at 0.5%, SGST at 0.5% on the turnover which is taxable supplies. Restaurants are required to pay the GST at 2.5% CGST, 2.5% SGST on the total turnover. There is a basic difference. These, whatever the tax is paid through it, it is a own obligation, cannot claim, cannot collect from the customer. Okay, next. The persons who are eligible, like manufacturer, trader and restaurant services, can provide services, provide to supply services up to 10% of turnover or 5 lakhs, whichever is higher. Next, some important points here is after calculating 10% or 5 lakhs, whichever is higher, exclude interest or discount in current year also. payment needs to be make payment quarterly by 18th. Form is CMP 08 and returns needs to be filed by the composition dealer is GSTR 4 annually by 30th April and annual return in GSTR 9A by 31st December. These are some of the important points and some more points are there. We will discuss now. That is, the composition dealer needs to mention in his bill of supply as composition taxable person, not eligible to collect a tax on supplies. Next, intimation. The person who wanted to opt for the composition will file a composition 2 for not required to file every year to continue under composition. Generally, the composition CMP 02 will be filed at the time of the availing the composition scheme, but there is no need to file the CMP 02 every year for continuation of composition scheme. Next, applicability. Once a composition scheme is taken, it is applicable to pan wise aggregate turnover, not state wise like that. Whereas payment of tax will be state wise. That's thing. And next one, section 10 subsection 2A. Let's tell about option to registered person with aggregate turnover less than or equals to 50 lakhs in previous financial year plus ineligible under 10.1 and 10.2. 10.1 and 10.2 are discussed in needs to be discussed first. After that, we need to go the 10.2a. What is the 10.1? We are going to learn about it. Okay, we can conclude this video now. Some simple points we have learned here is, let's see, one can revise it now. First, states composition. It states its inward supplies RCM, eligible persons, and MTR. What is this? Aggregate turnover. Composition scheme. I think here is there and mention in this composition. Mention the composition scheme MTR. Yes. In the first slide, we have learned about what is meant with the composition levy. Okay. Section 10 deals with the composition levy of the CGST Act 2017. Whenever the previous right in the previous year, if aggregate turnover is less than or equal to 1.5 crores or 75 lakhs or 50 lakhs, and up to the and current year up to the annual turnover of 1.5 crore, 75 crore and 50 lakhs, those are eligible to opt for the composition levy. And once it crosses, voluntary withdrawal needs to be filed, and permanent registration needs to be, regular registration needs to be taken, and next year he is not eligible to take a composition levy. Okay, next. And after that we have discussed about the aggregate turnover. What is meant by aggregate turnover? Aggregate turnover means the pan wise on all India basis, and aggregate turnover includes the taxable interstate exempt export supplies and excludes the inward supplies on which we need to pay under the RCM and GST paid on the same. Next. Then we are also discussing that some important notes here, like the aggregate turnover includes the supplies made on the behalf of the principal, and second point is supply of goods by the registered job worker includes in the aggregate turnover of the principal, and third point is outward supplies tax payable under the RCM included in the aggregate turnover. This is a quite reversal example of what we have discussed earlier, like the aggregate turnover excludes the inward supplies on which we have paid the GST on RCM basis, and but includes the outward supplies on which the recipient needs to pay the GST. Okay, next thing, composition scheme, eligible person. What are the conditions once he is opted for the composition scheme? Like if he is purchased input goods and input services, whatever the ITC he has paid is not eligible to take the ITC, and even though he is paid tax under the RCM basis, that ITC part also is not eligible to take the ITC, and he is not eligible to collect the GST from the customers, and he needs to issue a bill of supply instead of tax invoice, and he is not eligible to issue tax invoice. Next, eligible persons. Who are eligible persons? Eligible persons are 3 members are there: manufacturers, traders and restaurants or catering services. Manufacturer needs to pay the CGST, SGST at 0.5% respectively on the total turnover, whereas trader will pay 0.5% each of CGST, SGST as tax under the composition only turnover which is taxable supplies, and restaurant and catering services needs to pay the CGST, SGST at the rate of 2.5% respectively on the total turnover. This is an own obligation, cannot collect from, he is not eligible to collect from the customers. Next, MTR, related to this some important points are there. MTR can provide supply of services up to 10% of the total turnover or 5 lakhs whichever is higher, and after calculating the 10% or 5 lakhs whichever is higher, which includes the interest and discount needs to be excluded. Next, I think next point is payment. Under the composition scheme, payment of the tax will be done on quarterly basis by 18th of the next month of the once a quarter completed. Example, June, July, August is a second quarter, and for that we needs to pay the by 18th of August he needs to file CMP 08 and make the payment, and returns to be filed GSTR 4 on annual basis by 30th of April in the next year, and annual return needs to be filed in the form of GSTR 9A by 31st December. Next. The composition dealer needs to mention in his bill of supply saying that he is a composition taxable person and not eligible to collect the tax under the on supplies made. And intimation. CMP 02 is intimation if the person is wanted to convert to the composition scheme. Once he has converted to the composition scheme, he is not required to file the same form in every year to continue under the composition scheme. And one more last point is there, applicability point wise aggregate turnover and payment state wise. Generally, applicability, in case of the applicability, we need to take the aggregate turnover as pan wise, that is all India basis, whereas like for payment it needs to be state wise. That's the discussion we have made today. And last thing, section 10.2a and section 10.1 and section 10.2 and section 10.2a will be discussed in the coming videos. Hope this video helpful you are. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. Bye.